Today, we're going to talk about conditioning a seller, and today's episode was actually inspired by a listener. But before we jump in today's question and answer, I want to remind you, if you have not been to our website, head on over to nolimitsrealestateinvesting.com/script. If you would like to download the very exact script, all the exact words and questions and the poking and prodding and the very tool that we use to talk to motivated sellers to lock up deals, go there to download it, nolimitsrealestateinvesting.com/script. This exact document has been responsible for our team locking up over 1,300 deals and thousands of deals across the country by some of our students. So go to nolimitsrealestateinvesting.com/script to download that today. All right, so let's listen to today's question and jump right into it. Go ahead and play the music.
Hey, how's it going, Todd? My question is, in the training, you talk about conditioning and conditioning in regards to price. How soon do you want to condition the seller to know that, hey, we're probably not going to meet that asking price? How soon do you want to start doing that? Because you mentioned in the training that the reason why a lot of people lose deals is that they don't really condition them and they just blow out a number after they do their research. So I guess, how soon do you want to start that process in the call?
So great question. Thanks for sending this in. What is conditioning? Well, let's talk about what the definition of conditioning is and why do we do it. All right. Well, conditioning is the process of basically softening up the sellers, getting them in their mind to a point where they are going to accept our offer. So many times when someone wants to sell a property, they have very high expectations. They are at the peak of excitement and enthusiasm and optimism when they're selling their property, right? They're like, wow, my house is the best located, and this house is completely different because, it was completely remodeled in 1986, right? And so my house is the best house on the block. And, my house actually has a west-facing view, and every other house has an east-facing view. And so my house is worth so much more. And my grandfather actually whittled the wood on this deck with his bare hand, right? And so you could obviously see, you may have seen this when you're talking to a seller where certain sellers are just really attached to a property or their expectations are really, really high. If you just come in and shock a seller with a low price, okay, there's probably going to be too much tension. And at that point, right, it's going to just bounce and you're not going to get the deal. The seller's going to say, no way. They're going to have a bad taste in their mouth and they're going to hang up the phone. Now, not every time, but many sellers. And so what you want to do is you want to start this gradual process of resetting expectations, okay? Perfect example. I remember we were remodeling our house, and I remember the guy who was remodeling our house, he would tell us, hey, this is going to be, some work and you're going to be displaced, we'll work with you. Right. And, it's going to take, 8 weeks. It might take a little bit longer, but I'll let you know. Right. And he started to drop these hints during the process. Right. And then early in the process, also, he's going to say, hey, look, I just want to let you know, there are other contractors out there who may quote you less, right? I'm not necessarily the cheapest. I'm not telling you I'm going to be the most expensive, but I'm not going to be your cheapest option. And he did this early on in the process, right? And then I remember him saying, one of the things that we pride ourselves on is just getting the job done right the first time without having to come back. And, we're looking for quality. We do quality workmanship, and that's why we're not necessarily the cheapest in town. And I remember him throwing in these, little hints throughout this. And this entire time I'm thinking, okay, this guy's going to be a little bit more expensive. And so by the time that we got to the quote process, man, it was a lot more than I was hoping to spend. But because we had built rapport, because he had kind of dropped these hints, because he had answered my questions and we developed this trust, by the time that quote came out and it was time for me to sign the dotted line, I did it. And I hired him and I got great work, right, done on my property. So what is conditioning, right? We do the same thing with a seller when we're trying to buy a property. We're dropping little hints that we are going to need to be able to buy a house for a profit. And so the things that we do, conditioning, is we say, hey, you know what, as an investor, I'd love to be able to help you. We can make this really easy and convenient, but you're going to have to trade a little bit of equity for speed and convenience. And then I'll move on, right? I start doing this almost immediately. One of the other things I'll say is, if you're looking for top dollar, you might want to consider listing with a real estate agent. Okay. I'm not going to be the top. If you want to fix it up and put that work in and make this house look as nice as possible, and you really want to show off this widow wood that your grandpa did, and maybe refinish that, you could get a much higher price. And so you notice that I come in with these subtle hints on the phone, right? I'm not coming in and saying, oh, I'm going to be so low, should I even come out there? No, you wanted to start off gradually, nice and easy. Okay, it's this nice little easy dance where we're just moving nice and slow, nice and slow. I don't need to, do any fancy twists to throw them up in the air. Just drop little tiny seeds in there. One of the things I might say is, hey, it might be worth it for you to maybe put some work into the property before you sell it. I buy as is, and so some sellers, they, give up a little bit of that equity to deal with me just for that convenience. I'm not sure if that's you. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but let me know what you think. And so you'll drop those little tiny seeds. Now, it's very important that you do that, because if you all of a sudden go there and there's no expectations and the seller has this high price and you have this low price, when you go there, there's going to be a major disconnect. Not only are you going to waste your time, but it's a shock to the seller, and the seller's going to have a bitter taste in their mouth. Okay, so what we do during that process is we drop the hints. On the phone, we might do something like a soft pass. Now, the soft pass all comes down to the tone that you're going to use. So let's just say the seller gives a price and they say, okay, for example, if you look on our script and you want to go ahead and download that script at nolimitsrealestateinvesting.com/script, we say, Mr. Seller, if you don't mind me asking, what do you think would be the lowest price that you take for the house if we paid for all the closing costs? You didn't have to do any repairs. You could leave everything behind, and there were no real estate commissions to pay, right? Let them say a number, and no matter what it is, you just listen. And when they give a number, you say, stay quiet. And you say, is that the best you can do? Now notice it's all in a tone. I didn't say it was too high, didn't say it was too low. I just asked the question, is that the best you can do? And so my confusion and my tone leads the seller to believe that maybe they're asking a little bit too much money for the property. So I can ask that right away. So this question that came in, he asked, hey, when is the right time to start conditioning the seller? The answer to that is pretty much within the first 60 seconds of that conversation. I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to be nice. I'm going to build rapport. I'm going to gather information, but I'm going to start conditioning in a very gentle way. Now, towards the end of that script, I may do something. If I'm not sure if I should go out there, I might do a soft pass. And I'll say, hey, look, I know that you're asking 150. Let me just I don't know the condition of the property. I don't know the situation here, but I'm assuming, from what you're telling me, what if I was at like 110,000? Is that something that you'd even consider, or probably not? I'm not saying that's my price, but I'm just throwing that out there. Right now, see how I did that very non-threatening? I planted a seed. It's going to kind of marinate, and I see how they react to that. Right? I didn't say that was my offer. I just kind of gave them a little softball, right? And see, hey, you know what? Are they gonna bite at it? So now that I've conditioned, if they say no, I'm really looking for more, maybe now I'm going to make the appointment. Now, once you're there, and let's say if you're in person now, if you're locking up a deal over the phone, you're going to have to do this on the phone. I do a whole nother episode about how to do a face-to-face appointment with a seller. But now you need to start conditioning with a property condition. But it's very, very important. Man, this is one of my favorite techniques is that you never, ever point out flaws in the property verbally. What you do is you look around the property and you just look at things, right? Put your hand over it, touch it, make a funny face. If you're watching me on YouTube right now, you're like, oof. And let the property do the talking. The seller now is going to start talking and, saying, oh, well, this is, that's no big deal, right? Don't say a word. Just touch everything, look at every imperfection. And now let that do the conditioning. Very, very, very important. So that is my recommendation. You want to start conditioning early, very light with questions. And then you you can try the soft pass during the original question answering process. And then when you're at the property, then you want to actually use the property itself. Don't call out things in the property, just touch it, look at it, make funny faces, and let the seller then start to beat themselves down on overprice. Very, very important. Now, by the time that you guys get to negotiation, hopefully you and the seller, your expectations are about the same. You can now come to an agreement, sign a contract, and hopefully you got a $40,000 or $50,000, or maybe even $100,000 assignment fee in your future. Don't forget to go to nolimitsrealestateinvesting.com/script to get that script, and I will talk to you on the next episode.